Okay, we have a 2008 Ford Escape, and this has the 2.3 liter four-cylinder in it. And we're going to be replacing the valve cover gaskets here this morning. Now we're going to go ahead and put some spark plugs on here while we're at it. If you haven't done your spark plugs, a good time to go ahead and do them at this time. And this is what the valve cover gasket looks like. You should have a big seal to go around the valve cover, and then 3 of these pieces for sealing the spark plug wells. And that's the number. I got this from AutoZone. They had a mall gasket, which I usually use. I wanted to try the Felpro. I really like Felpro. It's pretty good for aftermarket, and I wanted to try this time. And you're going to need, if you don't have any of this RTV, this is what I use. Just get you a little bit of that, because you're going to need some of that as well. And these are some really good spark plugs. These are iridium. If you're not familiar, the regular spark plugs a little bit different made. You can get twice the life out of the iridiums. These things will go up to 100,000 miles on those spark plugs. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Okay, so we got the hood up. The very first thing we're going to do is go ahead and disconnect our negative with an 8mm. Just turn this and loosen it, and you should be able to wiggle this off of here. If not, get a screwdriver and pry in here a little bit and give it a lift up. So we're going to go ahead and get that off of there. Okay, so next thing we're going to come over here to our valve cover. We're going to start disconnecting these cool packs and these other sensors. There's our first one. Just push down right there and remove that. And we're just going to start removing all these sensors here. So this one's got one underneath here you can't see. Just press and give it a pull, and some of these really can stick. There's that one. It's on the bottom. You just push right there, and we're going to go ahead and disconnect our coil packs. Just push down right here, just give it a pull, and these are pretty self-explanatory. You won't get these mixed up. We're just going to go through and disconnect each and every one of these here, and we'll just fold this wire back once we get everything completely loose. So we've got these little plastic clips. You can see sometimes they go down over the studs. Sometimes you have to use a screwdriver to pop them up if they're really stubborn. You can see there's one right here, but you have to just kind of pry those up. And we've got another one right over here. So we need to get those popped up so we can pull this back out of our way here. Now, just to show you on this gas, you can see how the oil is running down and finding its way down there onto the exhaust manifold, and it's leaking pretty good here now. And it's not using a whole lot of oil, but it's just more of a nuisance because you got that burning oil smell and everything. So very inexpensive. The valve cover gasket is only $23, so less than $25 you can get this gasket and replace this. So I'm going to go ahead and get a screwdriver. We're going to start popping these plastic pieces up off of those studs there. Okay, so I'm just taking my screwdriver and getting under there and popping that up, and I'm just going to do the same thing over here for these others, because they really can be on there pretty stubborn. Just be careful and watch out for anything else that you're not breaking anything. And you can see just a little bit of pressure. Once you get them started, usually they'll finish pulling the rest of the way off. So I just got this one more right down here to get. Okay, so you can see we got this wire for our cool packs nice and loose, and we've got it disconnected here. So we're just going to pull this out of the way. Well, we've got another connector right here we need to get. Once we get this here, we'll pull it out of the way. Okay, this little rubber boot, I've just got it flipped like backwards here so I can show you this, but it's just another connector, as you can see right there, and it's just keeping that, it goes down under the valve cover and it's keeping it sealed. So you got to either push this with your finger or get down here with a screwdriver and gently push that right there as you lift up with another one. You can see I'm pushing it in right there. So you gently push that in as you lift up, and just be careful not to damage it. And we're just going to lift that up and out of there. Okay, and there's all there is to that sensor. You can see you just push this here, pushes down to release it. Okay, so now we've got it loose. You can see we can just fold it back over here out of our way. Now we do have this here we need to get while we're at it. This we'll just push down. It's got a lock and you can push it from the bottom and just pop that right off. It's on the bottom side. Just push this here, this lever, and you can see when you push that, that releases that lock on there, and that's just for your vacuum. So we've got that loose. We've got our coil pack out of the way enough here. Now we do have this little bracket here. I believe this is plastic or something, or maybe metal, but it just holds this wire cable up here. We're going to have to get that. So, and we've got another mount right here, and those are 10 millimeters. So we'll go ahead and pop that. We've got another one right here. We'll go ahead and pop this up. So just be gentle with these, because you don't want to break them. Once you get it loose, they'll pop up and off there. So we're going to go ahead and take this one and pop it up next. Okay, so we got that loose as well. And we've got one more. I'll show you right back here. That is on that one. Let's pop that up. And what I got now is a 10 millimeter. You'll need a deep one. And I'm going to go ahead and start taking this cable, throttle cable. We've got that 10 millimeter right there, and then we got this one right back here. Just going to take it loose and keep up with those. These 10 millimeter nuts, so we're not losing those. And then we'll have that cable freed up as well. Okay, so you can see we got this loose from that stud, and we got it loose back here. So we've pretty much got everything freed up. Now, one other step I'm going to take, I put a rag over this right here. We're going to take and wipe the top of this down a little bit and try to, I've got an air hose. I'm going to try to blow whatever debris out from around it, because the last thing we want is when we go to pulling this up for a bunch of trash to go to falling down in here. So we're going to try to at least get all the loose debris and everything off the top of it, and just kind of spray this off with some air a little bit, just as a precaution before we go to removing it. Not a bad idea to clean this before you ever get started on it, to clean it off a little bit. Okay, so we've wiped it down. I blowed it off with air pretty good. That way it's just not got a lot of loose trash that's going to just go to falling down in there. If you get a little bit in there, it's not going to be the end of the world. I mean, you do have an oil filter and everything. It will get cleaned out, but you want to try to prevent getting anything in there if you don't have to. So we're going to go ahead. You're going to need a deep 8mm. We're going to go ahead and take these coil packs off of here. So you'll need a deep socket because all these are studded. We'll just take out these studs, and then we'll work on pulling our coil packs up and out of there. So I've just got one more there, and then we'll start pulling these out. Okay, and then to get these out, just give it a little tug, and it should come up and out of there. Sometimes they like to stick a little bit, and that can also happen, but you can put that back in there. So we need to get something from the bottom and pull on this because they're really wanting to stick. So we'll get a screwdriver for that. Okay, so I wanted to show you the problem that I had here because you may have the same thing with yours. This is not supposed to pull out of there like that. These very easily came out and they weren't stuck. This one, however, is like severely stuck in there, and the oil, you know, does eat rubber up over time. So this one here is when I tried to pull on it, whatever I did, it just pulled apart. So we'll have to replace this one down here. So that may happen to yours, but these, you can see that the valve cover gasket has failed. I mean, because look at all this oil down here. Look at all the oil that's running down into the spark plug wells. So that's what you don't want to see right there. And but also these things this is the first time I've ever seen one pull apart, and I've messed with quite a few of these coil packs. For the first time I've ever seen one that's just pulled apart like that, because there was just no getting it out. So I'm actually going to have to get the remainder of that out when I pull this valve cover gasket. So I just wanted to show you that. You may have the same problem. You know, if it happens on one, it's going to happen on others. So don't be surprised thinking that you did something wrong. If this rubber gets old and it's all of them are getting kind of soft, and it's probably not a bad idea to replace all of them. If this were mine, I would probably just replace the set. But the rubber's getting soft and everything, so they're probably just due to be replaced altogether. And this is probably the first time that these have even been messed with, and this has got over 100,000. So we're just going to continue on here. We've got to take our 8mm, and we're just going to go around the perimeter, and we also have got two here in the center. We got a couple of little 8mm in the center here, and we're going to go ahead and get those. And these are one of the first ones you'll want to tighten up as well as when you're going to snug this back down. It gets snugged down in inch pounds, not foot pounds. So we got a little setback with the coil pack. Hopefully we're going to be able to find one of those and get that fixed up. But that kind of stuff can be expected. So we got these two right here in the center loose, And by the way, you should be able to get these coil packs at any parts store. You should be able to go to any parts store and pick these up. So I'm going to start up here and just start going around the perimeter here now. Any of these connectors that look like they're going to get in the way of pulling this off, I'm going to remove. So I'm going to pull this back over here out of the way. And it looks like to me that this one's going to get in the way, so 10 millimeter. So I'm just going to loosen that nut. I don't need to take it off, and probably swivel it around here. So I think I'm going to do that next. And we've got still this connector right here that I didn't get from earlier. I'm going to pop that little plastic connector up and off of that stud. Okay, so I just loosened that and swiveled it over here, this little one out of the way here, so I don't need to completely remove it. So we got the wires around the perimeter loose, and we just kind of want things out of our way. And this is loose, it's not hurting anything. So like I said, we're just going to continue on around the perimeter with our 8 millimeter and just start getting all these loose. And there's a lot of little 8 millimeter studs all the way around, you can see, and then down the back. And it's not uncommon, even after you get all these, it may be stuck a little bit and you'll have to kind of pull on it, tug on it. Sometimes I've had to get under it with my screwdriver, flat screwdriver, and delicately lift up on it a little bit, just depending on how stuck it is. So we're just going to go on around. I said I'm loosening all of them up. And they're not very tight, at least they shouldn't be. We got one that's right here, this wire. That should be all of them loose. Okay, so they're all nice and loose now. So we're just going to go through and take all of them up. These usually, once you got them completely loose, they usually stay in place. They're usually designed to not fall out. You can see how it's not coming out. That's what it's supposed to do, and that's just so you don't get them mixed up. As you can see, there's a few of them that are a little different, that have a little bit longer studs on it, you know, for the wire harness clips there, etc. So other than that, they're pretty much all the same, but because of that, they usually design them where they stay on there. So I've got them loose. I'm just going to go ahead and finish, you know, turn them until they're completely loose, and then we'll see about pulling this thing up. Okay, this is one of the more difficult ones to pop loose. I started with a little 2-inch putty knife down here. There's some silicone. I started working on this end, and also come down here and I've done the same thing here. You want to be careful. You don't want to break your valve cover. And then I got a little screwdriver here and started lifting, and then I got another little screwdriver and kind of started just working on this corner a little bit, and then all of a sudden it finally just gave and popped loose. So all I can tell you is just start at one end, be gentle, don't give it enough force. You know you're going to be breaking something, but you do have to get it to pop loose because it creates quite a seal on here. You can see that it's loose now, and I'm getting ready to pull it out of here. Be careful, don't lose any of your bolts, just in case that they're not on there like they should be. I'm just going to lift this up. You can see it's kind of difficult to do with one hand. We got these wires kind of in the way, but we're going to lift it up and just turn it. just work it up and out of here. Now I did check on the price of the coil pack, and those are like $56. They're not real cheap, so hopefully you don't run into that. And that was the only place I found them in stock was O'Reilly's. I don't know if you've got an O'Reilly's where you're at, but nowhere else had them in stock, and it was going to be like several days, and can't be doing that. So here it is, wiggle out from under here, and we're going to also I like to take some purple cleaner and clean this thing up, at least the top of it, because it's just really grimy and nasty. So we'll clean it off a little bit, get some of this oil off of here. And just to give you another look, I mean, look at the amount of oil sitting down in those spark plug wells. This is one of the worst ones I've seen. I mean, this is almost, you know, just up to the top of those spark plugs there. And this is just almost went too far. The center one seems to be way worse than the outer ones. You know, just age and these things fail. These gaskets just start deteriorating and they're just all but useless. And I'm really surprised that this hasn't been more problems than it has been. We're going to get, you know, you could vacuum it out. I'm going to just take some paper towels and soak this up a little bit. If you get a little bit, a teaspoon or something down in there, you can just blow it back out. Take your spark plugs out and blow it back out. Crank it over, or just, it's not going to hurt anything. This thing here is still stuck, believe it or not. And this is one of the driest ones. I guess that's why it's stuck so bad. These all had oil in them, so they just pulled right out. This one here, you can see it tore the whole top of this off, and it's still not coming off there. Like, it's still just stuck to the top of this spark plug, and it doesn't even have the other part of the electrode and stuff in there. So there's a look at that. You can see your silicone points or RTV points when you pull this thing off. We're going to have to scrape those off with a putty knife, and this is just where the front cover meets up with the head, and it's never perfect. And if you don't use the RTV, you're going to have a leak there, and then you would be surprised at how much oil can leak out of a little spot like that. You know, and hence the reason this is leaking down the back. Even when it's not just a horrible seal, when this vehicle's running and that oil gets hot and it's got a place to go, it just goes to leaking like you wouldn't believe. So there's a look at that. Really bad. I mean, these things just about went too long. I don't feel like they've ever been changed. Said over 100,000 miles. If it'd been changed, it wouldn't be this bad. So that's what it looks like at over 100,000. So we're at 115, you know, to be exact. So anyways, I'm gonna get this oil. I'm gonna get some paper towels. I'm gonna get this oil out. I'm gonna pull the rest of this out of here with some pliers or something. It's gonna come out one way or the other. And we're gonna clean this up a little bit. We'll go ahead and get our spark plugs in while we're at this, and we're going to just clean around this perimeter all around it, scrape up this RTV, just make sure it's a nice clean surface that we're going back on here, and then we'll go ahead and work on cleaning the top of this up as well a little bit. Okay, I finally pulled that last little piece of that over there off, and you can see it is dry in there. It's the only one that was dry. I was just taking some cotton balls to get the last little dab of this oil out of here, so there's not much in there, enough now to hurt anything. And so we'll get this, we'll go ahead and start pulling these spark plugs out. Okay, we got our spark plug tool with the little rubber cap in there to catch these, and these may be pretty snug. And there's our first one out, and you can see they had some iridiums in here, so You know, it's probably why they've lasted this long. They actually had some good ones in here factory, and here's a look at how it looks now. And these may be pretty tight. You may need to use an extended handle or use a cheater pipe or something to get them loose at first. It really shouldn't be that tight. I think they only call for like maybe 10 foot-pounds, 8 or 10. I usually put them at like 15. But these plugs don't just look too horrible. But we're about to get these out, and we're just going to slap our new ones in that I showed you. You see all that on there. That's just as I'm pulling it out, that oil's running down onto it there. And these iridiums, these don't have to be gapped or anything. We just drop these things in. So I'm going to snug them down to about 15 foot-pounds, and we're going to be good to go. And it goes without saying, you shouldn't have had any oil in here either. So that oil is going to be wreaking havoc on this sensor as well, because this is supposed to be dry in here, just like this one down here. It's supposed to be dry. So that was the only one that was doing its job, was down here on this end. Okay, so I'm just tightening these. I've got my torque wrench set to 15 foot-pounds, and it's not a whole lot. We're just going through and double checking them. Once it clicks, just check it again. So we've got all these torqued down, and the plugs look good. I'm just going to go ahead and give this surface. You can use some brake cleaner or some starter fluid, just something. I've even used alcohol, just something to clean this surface up. The main thing is to clean it up really well right here where you scrape this old silicone off, because that needs to adhere. So make sure to scrape that and clean that really well right there. The rest of it's not as critical, just as long as it's clean, but it doesn't have to be like with alcohol or anything on the rest of it. Just as long as it's clean enough, the gasket will seal itself. Okay, so just using a little 2-inch putty knife to scrape this old RTV off, and then I've just done the same thing up here. Just come in here and scrape that off a little bit. And like I said, we're going to take some starter fluid and clean these areas, and then just give the rest of this a quick wipe down here. Make sure this surface is clean. Okay, so we went ahead and put our dabs of RTV, as you can see right there. You can see where the junction is from the front cover to the head, and just put your little dabs of RTV right there. We got this cleaned up nice and clean, and we're going to get ready to go ahead and put our valve cover gasket on to here now. Okay, so we've cleaned and wiped this thing up a little bit. It don't have to be perfect, but we've cleaned it up some. We've wiped it down underneath. We're just getting ready to get this old seal off here, and you said you can see how it is, how flattened it is, and you can see why it's important, you know, to replace these. Just the age, they just start deteriorating, and they don't do any good. And this one here, you can see how bad it is, and the reason that it was leaking so severely. So we're going to take our little pick tool. You will have to dig these off of here. They're not just going to come off easily, but just going to get in here and pick a point to start digging it out of this groove, and working it up and out of here. And so it just doesn't matter where you start at, we just have to dig it out. But I just wanted to show you the condition of how flattened this thing is. Okay, so I hooked in there, got this end coming up now, and it actually seats down into this quite a bit. See how deep it goes into the groove of this. If there's a little bit of oil in here, it's not going to hurt anything. You don't have to get it perfect. You know, just clean it the best you can. And you can also feel the difference in these old ones. They're just so dry and brittle and just hardened from the heat and the age and everything, and they just do not work after. And like I said, this is only 115,000 miles, but just the age of it alone has just ruined these. So now we're going to go ahead and get in here. We got 3 more. We got this one and this rectangular one here, and then the one down here on the end to get. Okay, we're going to start with the big one here, and it's got little locators too, and you can kind of see where these things are going to go. And see, there's like a little spot down here that fits into, and just work it in. You see these little pieces go where the little rounded spots are, and we're just going to work this around. Just nothing to it. It's only going to go one way, and if you have to stretch it just a smidge to get it to line up, it will move a little bit. Looks like we just almost got it. Got a little bit right here. Just want to make sure that it's pushed all the way down in there. And you can already see how this sticks up, you know, 1/8 of an inch. Of course, we're going to compress that down a little bit, but after a while of compressing and age, it doesn't have any elasticity, and it just doesn't seal anything. So you can just see the difference. So now we're going to go ahead and get our smaller pieces over here. Okay, so we got this one. Goes here. It's got a little circular part right there. Just push that down into place. As I said, these will only go one way, so there's no danger of getting them in the wrong spot. And then we got the one with the little rounded piece that goes there. And you'll notice I did put the RTV, but that RTV is not going to set up that quick. You know, you'd have to be sitting here for an hour, you know, but you can put it on how you want. But it's going to squish out, and it takes a little bit for that RTV to actually set up. But it'll be fine even if you run it after getting this on there. It's usually enough. And like I say, I've got got one of my little studs that's falling out here, so I'm gonna have to put that back. So if that happens, just stick them back where they go. They're supposed to kind of stay on there, but sometimes they don't. So we're just getting ready at this point to get it back in there. Now I'll have to be cautious when I get down here where my RTV. I don't want to just go to smearing that, so I'm gonna, you know, work it up under the wires and just gently set it down. Just kind of eyeball it when you can tell you got it lined up enough, and just set it down in there. Okay, so I just kind of got the back set into place and just gently let the front down and just kind of lined it up, working it in from up here underneath the wires and moving stuff back out of my way. So I'm just gonna go along and start lining these up. So don't tighten any of them till you get all of your 8mm started into their threads, because then you'll have trouble aligning if you don't. So make sure you get them all started loosely by hand or with your little ratchet. Just make sure you get them loosely started, and then we'll go through and start torquing them down. We're going to go 89 inch-pounds on these. It doesn't take a lot. If you don't have an inch-pound torque wrench, then you know, just barely snug these down with a small 1/4 inch drive. If you're not using like a electric sort of cordless to do these, a little hand 1/4 inch drive works really well. So as far as getting all these started, now when you go to torquing these, you want to start with these center ones here. So I'm just working them along with this one here, and then we'll get our inch-pound torque wrench, and we're going to torque these to 89 inch-pounds, nothing to it. Okay, we got this set on 89 inch-pounds. Just start with your center bolts, and then you'll move on to the centermost. And we'll just do a zigzag pattern. And we'll come back over here, going in from one side to the other, and work our way to the outer edges. And we'll come back and check every one of these because it's plastic, and as you go to tighten in one part, it'll loosen something else up. So we're just going to work our way to the outer edge. We've got another one hiding back here. And then we just got to get down here on this edge. Of course, we'll have to shorten it up for that one underneath that cruise control box. And then we'll go back and check everything. Double check, triple check, make sure they're torqued right. Okay, we got all those torqued. We're going to go ahead at this point and work on getting our coil packs back into place. And you remember the one that broke, and in these I need to get a little bit of the oil off of these, but we did get a replacement. They said they're kind of pricey at $60 each, but we got one nevertheless, because we can't do much with a broken coil pack. So looks identical. We're just going to put it back down here where the one broke. Just push it firmly down into place, and then we'll just go ahead and get our bolt back into there. And we got those laying up here, and we're just going to do each one of these just like this. Like I said, it's not a bad idea to change these out as a set as well, but I'm going to clean up the other ones and put them into place, and then we're also going to have to get this little sensor, this little part back in here. Okay, I just want to show you this one before we get all the other coil packs in the way. This just pushes right back down onto that right there and clips. Just clips right back into that connector there. So just give it a good push, and then push this seal back down in there until it's pushed all the way in. And you can tell that it's pushed back around. It should just go right back into place. Just push it back down in there like that, so it's going to seal. We're just going to get the other two coil packs here, and then we'll work on connecting the wires and stuff. Okay, and if you do want to tighten these, which they don't have to be that tight, you can go 89 inch-pounds on those as well. Now we need to spin this connector back around, tighten that 10mm. Okay, and while we're at it, we'll just go ahead and make this connection right here. Okay, I was trying to make the wrong connection. I had to look at it there. It actually goes, this one goes over here on this sensor. This is the one that goes here. And we'll go ahead and put this back that we moved. And we'll start putting some of these back on here. So those just push on. This pushes back on here. And we've got some that go into the back. Go on to here. And we got one over here. We need to get on. And there's one right here. Some of these are stubborn. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and start pushing our coil packs back on. Get all these reconnected. Sometimes stuff likes to get twisted around. Just make sure you push it on till it firmly clips. And there's those. And now we've got this. Remember, it had a couple little 10 millimeters holding this up. I'm going to go ahead and get those back into place here. Okay, so that should look like that. This one back here should go something like that. And it will turn and twist. I'm just snugging these 10 millimeters back down here and here. Okay, and now right here we just got this. We'll just push that back on and lock it into place. It should slip back on. If not, just push the little lever again. Okay, and that's all there is to that. It's really pretty simple, just a lot of little wires to move out of the way, but really simple. And we're just fixing to crank it up here in a second. We're going to go ahead and reconnect our negative cable here. Just get it firmly back down on there, and we'll retighten that 8 millimeter. Okay, and here it is running. You'll smell a little burn off because we got oil and we were spraying this off with starter fluid and everything, so don't panic when you see some smoke because it's just going back down. Once it burns off though, you'll be able to lower your hood and it should stop before too long. But we mainly want to stop the leak, so we'll just check and make sure everything is looking good. Now, I don't mind washing my engines off. You know, a lot of people are kind of against that. I've not had a problem. So, you know, every once in a while. But it's not a bad idea. Once you get everything, all the leaks stopped, you can clean all that oil off and have it nice and clean. We got the valve cover cleaned up a little bit anyway. So the only other thing, we're going to do an oil change. We'll be all finished up with this, but everything's working good. The only problem that we had was with the coil pack breaking off. So don't panic if it happens to you. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. When the oil gets to these things, it starts dry rotting and they just come apart. Just like the gaskets. And these here will need to be replaced down the road as well. So anyway, it sounds good. Everything's back together. Not a very hard job at all. So do this and save yourself some money if it's something you want to tackle. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give the video a like. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and thank you for watching.